All right, the rain is mostly cooperating. All right, I think we're going to get started. Those that are able, please stand for the chaplain's invocation and also remove your hat for the singing of the national anthem. We are pleased to have a group of Hartford Middle School students here under the direction of Kristen Chapman to sing this for us. But first, I'd like to introduce Chaplain Aaron Stevens, Chief of Chaplain Services at the White River Junction VA. Chaplain Stevens has over 20 years of spiritual care experience. He served 7 years on active duty in the U.S. Army with 2 combat deployments to Afghanistan in support of the global war on terror. His postdoctoral work focuses on the reduction of veteran suicide through the implementation of holistic care for PTSD and trauma.
I invite you to pray in your tradition as I pray in mine. Today we bow our heads and our hearts to you, Lord, that we may remember all veterans from the town of Hartford, Vermont. We honor and remember all who paid the ultimate sacrifice, while pausing to underscore the service and sacrifice of Hartford's World War I and World War II veterans with a renewed monument dedicated in their honor. Many of these brave men and women across varied conflicts and campaigns pay the ultimate price by giving their lives for their country. All were willing to do so that we could live in freedom from the tyranny and evil that seeks to kill, steal, and destroy our world. We can never be grateful enough for the sacrifices they made, and we are humbled by their example of selfless service and personal courage. They offered their own lives in the face of tremendous adversity for the preservation of this great nation and the benefits of freedom and liberty that impact all our lives daily. For that we honor them and give eternal thanks. Father, we ask that you bring a renewed sense of their sacrifices into the forefront of our hearts and minds, so we may never forget those called to such a great sacrifice. Give peace and rest to their eternal memory, and we ask that you provide comfort and sustaining strength to the loved ones who continue to bear the cost of their heroic service. We pray this in your holy name. Amen.
Wow, thank you so much for coming and singing for us today. Everyone could be seated. I would first like to acknowledge and thank everyone who is here today. I know that we have many veterans in attendance. I want to mention one in particular, Alvin Ricker. Alvin Ricker, age 97, fought in World War II, and his name is on the new monument. It is an honor to have him here with us today. Well, we'll hear a little more about Alvin later in the program too. I'm also told that we have a group of VA nurses in attendance, and I wouldn't be surprised if there were others from the VA here as well. Thank you for all you do to care for our veterans, and thanks for joining us this afternoon. I know we have at least one Gold Star family here with us today as well. And thanks to everyone who is here as a family, friend, or supporter of our veterans and a supporter of Hartford history. I know that some of you have come from out of state to be here with us today, and what a great turnout we have. I'd like to briefly share the history of this great project. In the summer of 2019, I felt compelled to address the neglected World War I monument tucked away in the basement of Town Hall and the Historical Society for decades. Rallying a few volunteers via the listserv, we formed a committee to tackle this endeavor. Through inventorying and exploring options, it became evident that rebuilding from scratch was the best approach. However, our momentum was halted by the onset of the pandemic in March of 2020. In late 2022, we restarted our efforts. Near the beginning of our work, we learned that there also used to be a World War II monument in town. And it quickly became clear that if we were going to invest in a large piece of granite and one large bronze plaque, that we should aim for a second bronze plaque and put both the World War I and World War II names on a single monument. I am deeply indebted to a myriad of individuals whose generosity and dedication brought this project to such a successful outcome. I must acknowledge some key contributors by name, namely the Monument Committee. And I don't know where they're all hiding in the crowd. Tim Shaw, whose engineering expertise was a huge help in the permitting and construction process. Linda Miller, an amazing genealogist who researched the names for both monuments from old pictures, published lists of names, and online historical military records. Tammy Stammers for assistance in collecting the info for the engraved bricks, and Marcy Bartlett for her meticulous proofreading and formatting assistance on the bricks. David Brown, our treasurer, also Marge Brown, Dennis Brown, and Pat Stark for ideas, suggestions, and assistance throughout this project. Their collective efforts were indispensable, and I would work with this team again anytime in the future. The unanimous backing by the Select Board, as well as the zoning, planning, and the design review boards was a big boost to our efforts as we got started and decided that the most logical place for this new monument was right here in Veterans Park. Scott Hausler, Director of Parks and Rec, has been a huge supporter of this idea since day one and has contributed immensely to our vision for the park. Financially, we received substantial early support from the Jack and Dorothy Byrne Foundation, Mascoma Savings Bank, and M&T Bank. Businesses and contractors generously offered their services before we even had enough money to buy the monument itself. Lowry Property Service, Clint Potter of Clint's Concrete, and Carroll Concrete volunteered and literally dug and poured the foundation for the monument last fall before we had even finished fundraising. Special thanks are due to the Better Places of Vermont program and the Vermont Community Foundation, whose guidance and matching grant opportunity was a huge boost to our fundraising goals. And there were all of you, dozens and dozens of individuals who donated money, donated services, and chipped in to make this vision a reality. All of you who believed, as the committee did, that this project was worthwhile. I don't have time to name all of you here, but this would not have happened without the amazing community support and assistance that we received. And by last Thanksgiving, we had enough money raised to do this and to do it right. The committee set Memorial Day as our goal for the dedication, and here we are. Finishing touches such as lighting and addition of some flower garden landscaping has been donated by Shaw Electric, the Hartford Garden Friends, and the Quechee Garden Club, and those will be installed in the next few weeks. A little too early to plant plants. This project stands as a testament to the unwavering spirit of our community and the profound respect that we hold for veterans. Their sacrifices and selflessness exemplify the very essence of our nation's values and ideals. They are the embodiment of courage, resilience, and unwavering commitment to a cause greater than themselves. May this monument serve as a timeless reminder of their bravery and dedication, inspiring future generations to cherish the freedoms that we all enjoy. And with that, I'd like to introduce the first of our guest speakers. We are pleased to have Senator Peter Welch with us today. Peter was born in Springfield, Massachusetts. After graduating from law school in 1973, he settled in White River Junction, where he worked as a public defender before founding a small law practice. He was first elected to represent Windsor County in the Vermont Senate in 1980. In 2006, Peter ran and won Vermont's sole seat in the U.S. House of Representatives in a race that received national attention as the only contested congressional race in the country where both candidates refused to air negative ads. After Senator Patrick Leahy decided to retire after more than 4 decades of service in 2022, Peter ran in and won the election to become Vermont's newest senator. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to introduce the Honorable Senator Peter Welch.
Great to be home in White River Junction, Vermont. It really is. That's right. I came here in 1974, January. It was a cold winter, but I got a warm welcome. And I was down in the municipal office building where the roof hadn't been repaired yet. I was with Harry Black, and when it rained, we had a little leaking. But I understand the town's taken care of that and a lot of other things since then. But it really is special for me to be here, where I started my adult post-law school life. And no one's been better to me than the people of White River Junction, Vermont. So that's just a personal expression of gratitude for everyone who is here. But to be here on such a special day, Memorial Day, where we're going to unveil this extraordinary monument for people from here, over 1,020 names, from right here, who over 100 years ago served in World War I, who over 80 years ago served in World War II. And the Reverend, in his beautiful prayer, spoke about the commitment that all of those folks made to our freedoms. And we honor our veterans, service members, for doing that. And it's astonishing, we got a touch of rain. When we were starting, it worked out. But you know, when those 1,000 service members were serving, they didn't get to go under a tent or to bring an umbrella. If it was rain, they were lucky. If it was snow and sleet and sub-zero weather, it was harder. But whatever it is, that's what they dealt with to protect us and our freedoms. But there's another reason I find it so moving to be here. In this town, honoring names who don't remember but are not forgotten. Yes, they served us. We're patriotic to protect our flag and our freedom. But what they did is they helped each other in the most dire and difficult of circumstances. I'm not a veteran. I'm like the vast majority of U.S. citizens. I've been the beneficiary of the services our veterans have provided. And to the veterans, on behalf of all of us who did not serve but benefited by your service, thank you. And I know I speak for every single one of us. it's that sense of solidarity. When I talk to veterans, yes, they were fighting for our freedoms, but they were fighting for that person next to them in the foxhole. They were going to do every single thing they could for every person in that unit to try to help them get to the other side. And what we're doing here today is taking the example that those veterans came, where yes, with the memorial, we're not going to forget, but the example they gave us, in addition to fighting for our freedoms, was to help one another in our own community, to build our community, make it a place where we can have these wonderful Hartford Middle School folks who sang so beautifully have a future. Where as we get older and we have to help one another because we're stumbling, we can have confidence that our neighbors are going to look out after us. Because that's what those veterans did. Under the most adverse of circumstances, when they were suffering, they didn't complain. When they fell down or got shot, they did their best to get up. And it was always, always about helping others. I have never had a conversation with a veteran, ever, where they didn't, in response to me thanking them, remind me of who they served with. And you know, that's the memory. That's the example that we need so much in this country, to help one another. And by the way, the veterans didn't have unified political points of view. They didn't have the same religion. They didn't have the same upbringing. But they had the same commitment to one another. And isn't that what makes it possible to endure the most difficult of circumstances? That it is about something greater than yourself? It's about that person next to you. It's about that neighbor down the street who needs a helping hand. And that's what's so absolutely wonderful about the committee getting together. Because think of all that went into creating this memorial. The idea, the research of every single name. I mean, that's hard to do. The community support with the contributions from all around, the personal efforts. And that is the gift those 1,000 veterans gave to this community, where this community, by their example, took that example and then has created this monument to those veterans, but also this extraordinary civic accomplishment of this diverse community. People of different political points of view, different religions, different economic backgrounds, saying this is important and we are going to do it together. So my congratulations to all who played a part in this extraordinary monument that is going to serve as an example and reminder for another 100 years to come in the great town of Hartford, Vermont. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Next, I'd like to introduce John Haverstock, Hartford's town manager.
Thank you, Mary Kay. Thank you, Mary Kay. And thanks to everybody in Hartford who have given me such a nice warm welcome over these last nearly 8 months now that I've been on the job. Okay, thank you. Thanks again to everybody who's welcomed me so much here in the town as your newest town manager. I'd like to also congratulate the committee for all their hard work and perseverance in putting this program together, but also putting together the monument that allows us all for years and years to come to honor those who have served so proudly, so bravely their communities and their country. Just a few short words about my own family's connection to the world of veterans and veterans service. My father was just about to get on the ship transport for the Korean Peninsula when the armistice was signed, but it didn't mean he didn't have lots of fun shooting up the landscape in Waco, Texas in artillery training. I also, and had some hearing loss as a result, I should say. He was able, though, to really do what he could in his limited role to help the cause. And I'm very pleased to say he ended his years at a very fine facility over in Brattleboro, the Veterans Home. So thank you to the taxpayers that make that available to veterans of all eras. He really had a nice retirement and final days there. I had an uncle, James Haverstock, who fought at the Battle of the Bulge in World War II and met up with the Soviet forces outside of Berlin. I had an uncle, Charlie, down in Brazil, working as a meteorologist to help ships and planes navigate the crossing between South America and Africa in support of the war effort. So it's, again, truly a family affair for us, and we very much appreciate the opportunity to sing the praises of all veterans. As proud Americans, I believe we should all remember that our freedom is not free. It's only possible because heroes, some from our own families or neighborhoods, have paid a high price. It's that price which enables us to have ceremonies and observances like this in towns all across the country. Here today, we thank the people who helped make this great memorial a reality, and we find a dignified memorial to a life dedicated to the noblest of callings, to protect our people, uphold humankind's highest values, and make a better world for our children. They say security is like oxygen. If you have it, you don't think about it. The Patriots remembered today across the country provided it, and that's all you can think of when you don't have it. So we appreciate the veterans who help us breathe the fresh air of freedom around this country. We also thank the millions of service members, sailors, soldiers, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardsmen, active duty and reserves that help to provide that security. They're part of a long heritage of patriots who fought in places like Lexington and Concord, Gettysburg and Midway, Chosin, Khe Sanh, and more recently, Fallujah and Helmand. On Memorial Day, we especially remember those who gave their lives in the noblest of callings, our Gold Star families. I gather there's at least one such family here today, and you honor us with your presence. We know we lack the words to do justice to what we feel on this day. We can never fully know, but we do know what your sacrifice means to us, to this nation, and to a world that still depends so much on American men and women in uniform for its security. And now, to conclude my remarks, today I'd like to quote a battlefield speech from Abraham Lincoln, given shortly after the bloody Battle of Gettysburg, from the battlefield itself. From these honored dead, we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. Many thanks again to the Monument Committee, to the people here in attendance today, and of course a heartfelt thanks to America's veterans and our fallen patriots. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce both of our next speakers at the same time. Next up is Dennis Brown. Dennis is the commander of American Legion Post 84, located here in White River Junction. And speaking immediately after him will be Lanny Collins, commander of Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 2571, also here in White River Junction. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for that. Yes, hello. Again, my name is Dennis Brown, and I've had the honor of being the American Legion's Post 84 commander for the past 2 years.
I've also been a member of the Monument Committee. Thanks for coming out today. It is humbling to be among all you supporters of veterans. Thank you. As we gather here, I'd like to recognize Hartford's veterans groups like our Veterans Council, the VFW's Post 2571, the American Legion's Post 26, and the American Legion's Post 84, as well as the DAV, Disabled American Veterans. We are definitely a community of many veterans and veterans groups. Plus, we have an Army Reserve Center here, a Naval Reserve Center, the Vet Center, and of course our great VA hospital. Humidity's getting the best of me, I think. On this Memorial Day, let us all remember that freedom is not free, and that we owe our liberty to those in uniform who gave all they had, their lives, for us. On these very plaques, there are 19 World War II service members that were killed in action. On the World War II plaques, my father and 3 of my uncles are listed, one of which my Uncle Floyd, who was one of the KIAs that I just mentioned. There are also many other names of people that I've had the honor of knowing on these plaques. Sacrifice is meaningless without remembrance. It is up to us, those that survived the war, to make sure these heroes are never forgotten. This new monument is basically to right a wrong. This is because there were honor roll monuments for the World War I and World War II veterans that fell into disrepair and then they were removed. Let us make sure that this new monument is maintained forever and never removed. I'm going to repeat that one more time. Let us make sure that this new monument is maintained forever and never removed. I'm so glad to have had a part in this, and I hope you'll join me in treasuring Hartford's Veterans Park. Thanks to everyone that has recognized the importance of why we are here today, and to those who have supported this project. Thank you very, very much.
I've been told people in the back can't hear, so I'm going to try to speak a little louder here. So, thank you, Mary Kay, the entire World War I and World War II Memorial Committee for your countless hours of work on this splendid monument. And a thanks to the town of Hartford for this location to place this memorial. Amidst the culture and political battles that we face, there are far too many Americans that have forgotten our history, our allies, and even the shared values that make us a strong and united nation, a nation worth dying for. How fitting is it that we dedicate this memorial in Veterans Park with an eyesight of the train station where so many brave souls left our town to head off to far distant places in World War I they could not even pronounce, and neither can I. Places such as Marne, Gallipoli, Verdun, and Amiens. And why? Because of the attacks by Germans sinking many American merchant ships around the British Isles, prompted an American entry into the war. And World War II. The United States entered World War II after Japan attacked Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. The day after the attack, President Franklin D. Roosevelt gave his Day of Infamy speech. And again, brave souls departed Hartford from the hills, from the valleys, from the farms, from the mills, from cutting lumber, and headed for places they could never imagine. Places like Midway Atoll in the North Pacific, Guadalcanal in the Solomon Islands, Leyte Gulf in the Philippines, Okinawa, Japan. Only those that have worn the uniform of our great nation will fully understand why men and women choose to serve in the military. For some, it's a desire for adventure, bonds with friends and relatives, for financial reasons. But I'd like to think that in the case of World War I and World War II, it's for far greater values. That sense of honor, a sense of duty to their country with fallen comrades, a feeling of pride in fighting for their country. Opposition, German forces, or imperial forces. I think of a quote from Colonel David Hackworth. It says, bravery is being the only one who knows you're afraid. How many soldiers, sailors, and airmen took on that? Perhaps those men and women who so long ago imagined this holiday we now call Memorial Day knew what they were doing when they designated this time of year as our time to honor the fallen. It's a time of renewal and strength after a long winter. They must have imagined all the flowers in bloom, 1 million or more representing those lost in battles here on almost every continent around the globe. They must have imagined the opportunity to tell the stories of the past to the American people who will pass these stories on to the children of tomorrow. For me personally, and I'm sure many of you as well, I think this memorial is a great honor that we are justly bound to show to those that have served our great country. My choice would be have flags and banners on every pole in Hartford to show the appreciation and bestow the honors of justly served by those willing to make the ultimate sacrifice for our country. But alas, that is not my choice to make. It is our responsibility as citizens to remember the nation's brave fallen men and women, whether they died on foreign lands, in the heat of battle, or after a lifetime in the military of our armed forces. Never forget the men and women who know all too much the cost of our freedom. For their sacrifice to this country is the greatest gift of all. Again, thank you for inviting me to be part of this ceremony. God bless those that still stand on our nation's gates of freedom, and blessings to those deployed today in harm's way, providing us the opportunity to enjoy this beautiful day in our great nation. God bless America through these challenging times, and God bless each one of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jennifer and Lanny. Lastly, I'd like to introduce Robert Schur. In 2019, a Google search for people who restore war monuments led me to Skylight Studios in Woburn, Massachusetts. I first reached out to Robert's studio via email in late 2019 or early 2020, asking if they could help rebuild a dismantled World War I monument. Robert replied with interest, and thus our relationship began. He was incredibly supportive, offering his time and expertise, again, long before we had any funding at all for this project. Robert is an acclaimed sculptor known for his extensive work on public monuments and restorations. Two of his many notable works include the Cy Young Memorial in Boston and the General John Stark statue at the Bennington Battle Monument in Vermont. His studio also handles the conservation and restoration of historic sculptures and buildings, such as the old State House in Boston and the Washington Monument in D.C. With over 40 years of experience, Robert continues to create and restore significant sculptures worldwide. Why our request for help with a monument in the small town of Hartford, Vermont grabbed his attention, we don't know. But we are extremely grateful for his encouragement, enthusiasm, support, and assistance in helping us create this beautiful addition to Veterans Park. And we are very pleased to have him here today.
Thank you, Mary Kay. I'll tell you in a bit why I was so intrigued by helping you here. It had to do with my dad, actually, my grandfather too. But at long last, it feels very good to be standing here in front of the monument on Memorial Day. As you all know, the original World War I and World War II monuments once stood in Hartford, honored the townspeople who served and some who sacrificed their lives for the liberties and freedoms that we all enjoy today. For many years, ways, this history was almost lost. If it was not for a small group of interested citizens and others in Hartford who have been working on honoring the brave men and women who fought in the world wars with a new monument inscribed with their names, just as the original said. It was somewhere along this journey that Mary Kay contacted my studio, and you reminded me, 2019. The aim was to restore the forgotten names that were on the monument so the town could remember its own history. Recalling your own history makes this a special place for all of you. I recall in my earlier conversations with Mary Kay, this was very interesting, that many of the names, such as Briggs, Bugby, Clifford, Hazen, Myman, Waterman, and many more, are also names on local streets, parks, and buildings. The monument is a vital way for us to connect to and remember some of these local names. The stone for the monument, for the new monument, was actually quarried and cut right up the road in Barry. The design and the restoration of all the original elements from the original memorials that were included in this were done at my studio, and the bronze was cast in Pittsburgh. So this is all new, all American made, much of it Vermont made, which is kind of special, I think, for this place. In reviewing the history and the discussions with Mary Kay and the committee, it became evident how central the history of the original monuments would be in the new design. In the spirit of preserving the essence of the original memorials, the new memorial became a hybrid design of new carved granite and cast bronze, also incorporating some of the original cast iron elements. The whole process, from the initial discussions, designs, restorations of the original elements, bronze casting, stone cutting, and finishing, has taken over 4 years. Some of this was because of a bit of a sabbatical during the pandemic, but the committee was always committed to finishing what they started, which was pretty amazing, I thought. When I was asked to work on this memorial, it meant so much to me. And standing here in front of you may see from my age that I am an early baby boomer. Like many my age, I had a parent that served in World War II and a grandparent that served in World War I. Before I was born, my father enlisted and went into the Army. He never talked about his Army experience, but over the years of hearing bits and pieces of info from him, I put his story together. He ended up in a glider patrol unit on the front lines in Asia. His glider was shot down twice over New Guinea, but he was not captured by the enemy. He survived tropical diseases and being chased by indigenous headhunters. Many of his Army buddies remained his good friends, and they became aunts and uncles to me and my siblings. My new uncles also told me of their Army experiences, but only if I asked. I've carried these memories from my younger years with me, and I've always been honored when I can assist in the remembrance of those who have served. Every name on this memorial has a story, and all of them sacrificed so we could remain free. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you to everyone who just spoke and shared what this day and this monument means to them. Next, we have Linda Miller. Linda is going to share a tribute to Alvin Ricker, a town of Hartford resident who served in World War II and who is here with us today. And then we're going to uncover the new monument.
So today we gather to dedicate this monument to the brave men and women who served during World War I and World War II, conflicts that reshaped our world and defined the courage of 2 generations of Americans. It is an honor to stand here in the presence of one of those heroes, Alvin Ricker, whose service and sacrifice embodied the very spirit of this monument. Like many of his generation, Alvin didn't talk about his service in World War II. His family has the letters he wrote home to his parents, but they don't give any detail about where he served. The family know that when he left high school in October of 1944 at the age of 18, he served in the infantry in Germany, Austria, and France. He earned a Purple Heart for an injury during the war and returned home to Wilder in the fall of 1945. And if you've not ever seen a Purple Heart, he's wearing his Purple Heart today. Alvin represents the dedication and valor that characterized the millions of men and women who fought for freedom and peace. Serving his country during one of our history's most tumultuous times, he stood steadfast in the face of immense adversity, contributing to the monumental effort that ultimately led to victory and the preservation of our way of life. As we unveil this monument, we're reminded of the countless sacrifices made by our veterans. Each name, each story, and each memory etched into this monument is a testament of their courage and resilience. Alvin's presence here today is a living bridge to our past, a reminder of the real human lives behind the history we honor. Let us all take a moment to reflect on the profound impact of their service. Let us remember those who gave their all and those who returned forever changed. And let us express our deepest gratitude to Alvin and all veterans for their unwavering commitment to freedom and justice. Thank you, Alvin, for your service.
All right, at this point, if we could clear a path to the monument. Alvin, do you want to walk over by it? They're gonna get it uncovered, but please stay where you are for the moment, because after the monument's uncovered, we have just a couple more parts of the program. You'll have a chance to see it in a few minutes, but just stay where you are for right now, please. Yep, go ahead.